How was your week?
Rotten.
Were you hungry? Or just emotional? Or both?
Well, my brother was here from Arizona, so it was social. It was emotional. And it's like once I ate off the plan, all bets were off.
That's the all or nothing.
Yeah.
That's the,
mentality.
well, I ruined it because either it's perfect or it's not. And if it's not, what you'll do is you'll feel like, well, I have to get all the liberty I want because I'm going to end up going back on. So you end up compensating just for nothing at all because it's all in your head.
It's ridiculous. It's been horrible what it's done to me emotionally.
Yeah.
Honestly, I have felt like a rotten person.
You've emotionalized it.
Mm-hmm. I have.
And
absolutely.
And
I'm tired all the time.
That's
back to the
hormonal
back
stuff.
to the beginning. Really.
Well, it's not. And you have to understand that when you deviate on this, that is not, you are not back to the beginning and then worse. It's such an enlightenment to where your true issues are.
Yeah.
And you need to see it as each time you fall down, that's kind of like, okay, what did I trip on? Next time, as I'm going forward, because you're not going backwards. You're still moving. You're still progressing. Okay. You just have to go back and look at what you tripped on.
Yeah.
To go, oh, well, no wonder I didn't see that coming.
Yeah.
I didn't know that was an issue. And so now you know. So what I need to do for you is to help you go back and process. So the first time you had that moment where you said, screw it.
Yeah. There
is a moment in time that you are debating. Because this is why I love this protocol. It's so obvious when you're not on protocol. Because it's so black and white.
Yeah.
So it makes your justifications for cheating obvious as well.
Yeah.
So let's go back through the week. What was going through your head? What was the circumstance? What was the environment you were in when you first deviated?
Well, my brother came in from out of town, so...
So were you dealing with stress or social? Because
it was my dad's birthday, so I haven't really reflected on it. It's just like... So we went to Porter Creek for dinner, and I didn't want to embarrass myself and make all these weird, requests for specific food.
Especially if people don't know what you're doing.
Right.
And
right.
And they would look at you and go, really?
Yeah.
That's totally understandable.
Yeah. And my dad's a caretaker and hates to see me, struggle with my eating, and he would see that, any kind of diet that I do, he kind of freaks out about.
And which you can understand, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he's my dad, and he wants to take care of me. And so I just didn't want it to be a big deal, so I decided I would just order something off the menu and eat it.
And be okay with it.
And be okay with it.
Did you use your hunger?
No.
Okay, so oh man, I wish I was there for you at that moment, just to go, this is totally fine. Do not have any guilt. Just eat with hunger and everything will be great.
Mm-hmm. So...
Do you see where the gray is?
I was panicking inside too because I was thinking... so I had encrusted Parmesan walleye. Oh my God, there's cheese. I'm sure it's fat. I should scrape the breading off, but it's so good. I'm just going to do this and, what's for dessert?
God, I would love for you to be able to do it again. Because if you could go back and do it again, the decision to you could have gotten something that was like chicken, but let's just say you did get that Parmesan encrusted walleye.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Could you have minimized the hormonal ramifications of that?
Probably.
I agree.
If I had not eaten out of control.
Well, where did you go wrong? Let's talk about that, because I think that you could have kept on the right path, even with the food. We're talking emotionally.
Yeah.
Obviously, I would not encourage anybody to go off protocol because of the hormonal ramifications. But it doesn't have to be extremism.
Yeah.
There's got to be, if you're stuck with the food you have, how could you have stayed on the emotional path that we're trying to go on?
stuck with eating for hunger.
Totally. It's so simple. And there's no guilt involved.
Right.
Because ultimately...
That's kind of being like a little baby, though. I don't want to. I feel tired.
Oh, you're feeling emotionally deprived.
Mm-hmm.
Like, in that circumstance, did you feel... Let's go a little deeper. Because your family was there...
long hours.
So you were wanting to celebrate with food. Mm-hmm. It wasn't to hide a negative feeling. It wasn't to compensate for something awful. It was truly...
And we ate out for about every meal while my brother was there. Because I'm working 12, 14 hours a day. Mm-hmm. And so I brought my food to work, but then it would be, well, let's, eat dinner out tonight. And so off we'd go to the next place. And so it was fun having him there. It was fun spending time with him.
This is celebration eating. This is the most common dysfunction. So this isn't necessarily trauma-based eating.
Right. Well, it kind of turned into that.
To start. So
because my brother left on Sunday, and here it is Wednesday, and I still haven't gotten back on protocol. So now I'm like, oh my God, I have to, every day I start with that mindset, I'm going to start over today.
Yep, and it's, okay. And that's typical of all or nothing.
Yep.
Our goal is that you stay out of that.
Yep.
That you're not starting over today. You didn't start over yesterday.
Okay.
Because each day, just because you sleep at night doesn't mean that things are washed away.
Yeah.
It's every moment you're making a decision. This afternoon, you're starting over. Tonight, you're starting over. Every day, you make a decision. Okay. During the day, it's a moment to start over. The biggest problem, I think, with most diet disorders is the fact that we think that the day is either on or off. Mm-hmm. That there's no middle point, there's no quarter point, there's no 6 o'clock in the evening start over. It only occurs after you sleep at night.
Okay.
Do you think about how bizarre that is?
It is bizarre.
Like sleeping is penance. Granted, you feel better in the morning and your hormones are, whatever it is. Yeah. Hormonally, you can start over at any time during the day. Mm-hmm. That was a huge thing for me going through my process.
Right.
Is that if I ate too much at noontime, I knew I didn't want to go back to the all or nothing pendulum swing because that was insanity. That's what caused my insanity.
Yeah.
So it was the next meal I'm starting over. And it's not, well, I screwed it up so I might as well binge because then that created a whole nother psychological issue with the exercise and the purging.
Yeah.
So it's all...
I miss my exercise, too.
Well, no duh, because you're having major guilt from the excessive eating, which is you're going down, and there's no way to pull you up because you're choosing not to go to that addiction.
Okay.
So, which is wonderful. I mean, you need to look at this from afar and just notice that you are making major progress.
Doesn't feel like it.
I know, because you want it to happen instantly.
Yeah.
This type of work requires that you pull yourself out of it. And it's like climbing up a cliff. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You don't get halfway up and go, fuck it, and jump off.
Right.
You're still climbing. And you're looking at the top going, oh my God, I want to be there now. And because I'm not there now, I feel like I'm failing.
Yeah.
It's like,
Okay.
It's not the bottom or the top. In fact, almost your entire life is nowhere on the bottom or the top. That is all a fallacy of conceptualizing life from a place of ideology.
Yeah.
There is an expectation or a limit. There is no limit. So if there is no limit, are you really going to get to the top? Never.
No.
Correct. So, anyhow, I think the best thing we can do for you is really get into the way you were thinking so that you can proactively start immediately thinking differently, knowing that you want to avoid that frame of thought. Because that frame of thought is what's creating this, you're continually thinking that way.
Yeah.
And you're like, how do I get out of this? How do I get out of it? Do you just quit? Because that's usually what people do, is they say, screw it, I don't know how to get out of it, so let's just go back to the old pattern of binge, purge, you know, because
Yeah.
that's the only thing
I'm
you
about
are an
that close.
expert at. Well, that's why I'm here.
Yes. Yeah.
There's a process, and part of this is you've never been taught to process through struggles.
Right.
It's either you suck, you can't handle it, quit,
Yeah.
go the
That's
total
a lot of
opposite
mine.
direction, and then when you're sick and tired of the opposite direction, try it again in a more extremist fashion.
Mm-hmm.
It's not working for you.
Nope.
Okay, so going back during the week. So the obvious thing is the social, the wanting, you're wanting to compensate for your entire, you're tired in your work week. You know, that's how you
Yeah.
justify it. I'm exhausted. It's like, I tell people, it's like taking a soda can, shaking it up. That's how you feel. You want to pop the top because there's pressure building. And you're with your family, and it just certainly makes it easier to excuse mutilation to the body by just opening the can and letting it go out. Make sense?
Mm-hmm.
And all I'm saying is, sure, your can may be shaken, but let it sit for a little bit. What happens?
It calms down.
It totally comes on its own. But the pressure,
I always say time
you're running out.
heals all.
It does, but now you have to actually live it.
Yeah.
But it's like that moment. Those moments where you feel like the pressure is building and I don't think I can handle it.
Mm-hmm.
Those are your moments of, like,
Yeah.
can you cross the finish line? Can you do that last mile? That's really what it is. It's a mind over.
Yeah.
It's being able to sit with it and recognizing, you know, I've been through this before and I don't want to do this. I don't want to continue to always,
Yeah.
you know.
There's so much going on right now. It's so...
How perfect for this protocol, by the way.
Yeah.
When you think about what we're trying to do,
Yeah.
I want everything going on.
Yeah.
Because it's really a test of, well, how strong are you emotionally?
Mm-hmm.
Can you pull off your armor and fight with your flesh? You know, it's the ego we're dealing with. Can you let your ego go and expose the reality? Can you hang out with your family and just love them unconditionally? Why does it have to be conditional with food?
Mm-hmm.
You know, can you be there in peace? Can you be
Yeah.
there in quiet and let yourself feel?
My sister-in-law does it. I should talk to her some more too. See what she's been doing.
What?
Because she completely changed how she's lost like 40 pounds. We go out to eat and she has a salad with lemon.
Okay.
She's not.
That's not what I want you to do. That
Okay.
sounds not okay.
Okay.
You just need to listen to me. Do not go to her. Listen to me. Because if she's eating salad with lemon...
Because she's eliminated gluten. She's got food allergies.
Yeah, and you don't have the
And
same
she's-
issue. You have an
okay.
emotional issue.
Okay.
So you need to trust me on this.
Okay.
This is not about the diet. This is
Okay.
about you, and how is she going to know about you? She
Mhm.
can't help you.
No.
You
No, I
have to
just
help
thought
you.
We could support each other.
No, you need to do this for yourself. There's no way. You need to trust me on this.
Okay.
If you could go back to that first starting point, the moment you ordered the walleye encrusted, and you had listened to hunger and you didn't go nuts,
Yeah.
where would you be? What would happen the next time you went out?
Same thing.
You would have developed, think about the moment after.
Pattern, a behavior.
You would have been like, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
this is totally different. How would that have felt for you? I mean, put yourself in that
would have
moment.
felt really good.
Like, holy crap, it's not nothing.
Yeah.
You know, next time I'm going to do the best I can to keep within the protocol, but just having that one singular experience and allowing yourself to stay focused on hunger skull, hunger skull, hunger skull. Am I hungry? When do I stop? Do you see how that would have kind of kept you stable emotionally?
Yeah.
Through the
I was
whole week?
on the brink of it before my brother came. I felt like I was starting to understand what hunger was. Now I can't tell anymore.
Well, let's just start over today.
Yeah.
I mean, just start over right now.
Yeah.
So it's not all or nothing. Nothing's been ruined. Okay? So it makes sense based on how you felt at the time that, well, I've screwed it up anyways, I might. I mean, everything that's happened this week you've done repeatedly in the past.
Yeah.
So you basically took this and just repeated old behavior.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but now, at least at this point, do you have compassion for all the behavior you've had this week at some point? Can you understand if you were to explain to someone why that would have made sense. How would you verbalize that? Think about
why what I did this week
makes sense.
What would I...
If someone
how would I justify it?
Well, what type of view would you have had that would have made sense for that? Because the view you have, it makes sense to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
If I had that view, it would make sense to me why I would go out and feel a failure, eat too much and feel like a failure. It makes a lot of sense based on that view.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So if someone came to you and said, this is what's happening, you'd say, oh my gosh, I totally understand.
Yeah.
I totally get it.
Yeah.
Don't beat yourself up.
Yeah.
This is what happens
Put
when you view things.
Away.
Yeah, don't beat yourself up, because this is what happens when you have this view. Every single person alive who has the same exact view behaves the same exact way.
Yeah.
So number one, you're not alone. You are typical of someone with a diet disordered issue.
Mm-hmm.
Someone who judges food morally. You take it on as if the food you're eating is a definition of your moral value. It makes you feel bad about yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You've put part of your value into food.
Okay.
See this coffee?
Mm-hmm.
Something as simple as this would make you feel bad about yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Look.
It's got cream.
Would this make you feel... think about that. The cream in this. Does this make me a bad spirit, a bad person?
No.
It doesn't make sense. So what I need you to do is you need to look at food and you need to pull your power out of it, because it is no different than, someone who says, if I drink this, I'm a really great person.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a better person inside. For some reason, you took that walleye. And first of all, you made it have power to make you feel good. You gave away a lot of your emotional power. Think about how much power you had and how much power that walleye had.
Yeah.
That was yours, not the walleye.
Yeah.
How much power was there in it?
A lot.
That's how incredibly powerful you are. That's yours. Mm-hmm. That's a reflection of how incredible you are. Now, what would have happened if you didn't give that away? What would have happened to your sense of power that stays here?
I would have felt better.
Oh, you would have been like, holy shit, I am really amazing.
Yeah.
I didn't give it to that. I didn't give it power to make me feel better about myself.
Yeah.
Nor did I give it power to make me feel bad about myself. So it detaches emotion from it. And it makes sense. If food has emotional value, your reaction makes total sense, because it has the power to not only make you feel better about yourself, but to make you feel bad about yourself. And wouldn't you agree this whole week that that's what's been going on?
Yeah.
Food is like your codependent partner.
Yeah. Yeah. I've also been looking for that little girl.
Yep.
Like we talked about last week.
Who are you? Who is the spirit?
Yeah.
Aside from the body.
And I just I have to find, I can't find any happy moments. Like you talked about.
Well, it doesn't even have to be in childhood. It can be any time.
Yeah.
Any time where there's a moment of like serenity, where it's not attached to anything. It's not attached to a run you were on. Mm-hmm. It's not attached to your husband or your children. Mm-hmm. But it's pure serenity in something that is detached from, I don't know, from something outside of yourself.
Mm-hmm. So I've been searching.
Good.
Yeah.
You need to keep on doing it.
Yeah.
And imagine what it's like. Can you even picture what it would be like to not be obsessed with food, diet, weight, exercise?
Mm-mm.
Do you remember a time in your life where you weren't obsessed about it?
No.
So it has totally defined you. So it's kind of hard for you to picture that.
Yeah. I remember being 2 years old at my grandpa's house, naked in front of the buffet after he abused me and eating candy.
Because that was, I see it. Okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, and even younger.
Okay, so take that.
And then the joke at the dinner table with my dad at Porter Creek was, I couldn't get you to quiet down unless I put honey on your pacifier. So, I mean, it's just like everything in my life.
Got it. So they...
And then my mom, of course, you're fat, you're this, you're that.
So you felt defined by... her, love is conditional on the physical.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. Even in my teen years, she would say that to me. So, when I was my skinniest. So, I don't know.
Well, do you see the insanity that she had?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely.
So the compassion part is there. You get, like, they were really, this is really messed up.
Yep.
Even the honey part, because that's stimulating the cocaine center of your brain.
Right.
At such a young age. So you've developed a very strong brain connection to food.
Yep.
And fear with food. Rejection with food.
Yeah.
And diet.
Yeah.
Well, the question is, if you were to start over today as a child, as a baby, in a totally different circumstance.
Yeah. That's what I keep looking for.
You literally need to just kind of start over. So it's in order for you to do that, you have to be willing to tolerate the impulse and not react.
Okay.
That's the only way to break that brain pathway.
Okay.
Do you see why? Because it's not just going to go away.
No, it's not.
But it can if you don't react to it, so that you rewire the brain.
Habit.
Yeah. So that's the other part. So you got a trigger this weekend.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, I understand what it feels like to feel there is no way out. There is no other way. Because it's so powerful.
It creates anxiety.
Real. Like, I'm going to die.
I mean, just sitting here thinking about it.
It's real. I'm going to die anxiety. And I will tell you this. You have to focus in on, am I hungry? No.
Okay.
Do not eat. Let yourself feel like shit. We're trying to recreate a wiring to that hardwired hunger signal.
Yeah.
Not to the hardwired now. Well, it's a false wiring. It was put there to emotion in food and your body. We're trying to detach those two. The only way for you to really accomplish that is to let yourself experience it. It's totally different. Totally new.
Okay.
Because everything you've done thus far has always been with an ego attached to it. Ego meaning it's protecting this, it's a false front to protect your minuscule, if not nothing, sense of self.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. So, going forward from today, I only eat out of hunger, but stick to the protocol. Yeah,
you have the HCG in your system, and the benefit, and the other thing you have to understand the benefit of that. It's allowing you to really learn your hunger, so that you can use it as that foundation moving forward.
Right.
You know, the controlled food is so precise by weight, of that meat, and by, that it's going to give you the stability you need to really focus in on what hunger, how it manifests for your body, and how it diminishes for your body. If we were adding fats and proteins and sugars and starches, it'd be so dynamic you wouldn't have the ability to hold it still long enough to really memorize it.
Okay.
So, and I've had people do this without the protocol, and it takes longer because of that. How, oh my God, it's just like it's so random.
Yeah.
Fats and different that they don't really get.
Yeah.
3.75, 3.25, 3. It's that they're not getting to look at it under a microscope. So, do you see why it's like when you see it from that view, it's not a diet. This is such an opportunity for you to really perfect this awareness of the body. And can you see where it's like, okay, that's your weapon.
Yeah.
From now on. So anytime you get that wiring, that fear, that pain, that rejection, you're going to go, I'm just going to focus on this, and I will stay within this zone. And if, other than this, I will not respond.
Okay.
So that your reactions
Attached
to eating and exercise are not attached to the trauma, to your family trauma.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Do you see that picture? It's pretty strategic when we look at it from, if you take the emotion out.
Yep.
When you get that trauma fear that feels real, even though you know it's not occurring, it's not still happening.
Right.
So intellectually you get that, you're reacting to mass trauma that has been there and you've perpetuated through the behavior.
Yeah.
It's like it comes back, you respond to it, and it keeps it going. It's like reliving hell.
Yeah.
Even though it's still not occurring, your reaction to those feelings by turning and running is keeping it there. And what we're going to say is you're not going to turn and run.
Okay.
The only way for you to change that reaction in the brain, in physical, because if you didn't have the physical response to fear, the fight or flight, you're going to die sense, would it be easier for you to change?
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
Okay, I know it. It's the truth, because that physical fear is traumatizing in itself. Who would want to sit through it?
Right.
But what I'm asking you to do is sit through it. Mm-hmm. And it's as simple as your brother comes to visit and you're out to eat. And can you stay focused in on, I will not eat if I'm not hungry? Because if you do that, you're eliminating your guilt. Wouldn't you agree?
Uh-huh.
So if you don't have guilt, then what happens?
Yeah.
There's no binge.
Right.
So if we get rid of the binge, then what happens to that guilt? It doesn't occur because it's not there. Then what happens to your need to go purge somehow? It goes away too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we've got to start with the trigger. Like, what is it that's making you feel, I have to have that food. I need it, otherwise I'm gonna have to deal with death. Yeah. You have to be like, bring on the death. Intellectually, I know it's not gonna happen. Physically, it's gonna feel like it, so bring it on. Whatever. I don't want to react to it anymore.
Yeah.
There's no pill that can take that feeling away. There's no antidepressant.
Right.
This is for me when they were like, Robin, you need to get on Prozac.
Yeah.
It's like, this isn't a biochemical problem. Even though you could probably go into my brain and tell me it is, it's all based on fear, which is based on my perspective. Mm-hmm. So none of this fear reaction is going to go away until I change my perspective.
Right.
So I'm not taking a effing drug.
Right.
And I didn't. And I didn't, it's like, and I knew too, all the therapy in the world wasn't going to change this.
Right.
Because it was massive. What could I say honestly to make that fear feeling go away? Is there anything?
No.
Nothing. All I can say is I know it exists. You're not making that up.
Right.
Because I know what it feels like.
Yeah.
And all I can do is say, hey, here's how I ended it. But it requires desperation. You have to be so freaking desperate that you're willing to feel it.
Yeah.
It's, take off your armor. It's like your food is your biggest armor. It's your biggest advocate. It's the one thing that saves you every time. It is so reliable. Mm-hmm. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah.
Even though there's always the negative sides to it. There's always the guilt and then all of that. But if we get rid of the food attachment to your value, then everything else goes away. Does that make sense? So it's not even like worth it to me to even go into, the exercise addiction. Because that's a byproduct of your emotional eating issue. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So we can work on the exercise addiction, but ultimately, it's a byproduct. So why even go there when we can just go straight to the core of the problem?
Right.
Like I said, it's like you get rid of this, then this goes away, this. And all of these things that you're doing just go away.
Mm-hmm. So, before I started this, I've been bleeding for over a week now. Before I started this, back in I've been bleeding for over a week now.
Period.
So,
which is great.
It is great?
Yes.
Oh, for over a week?
Well, what was your cycle
normal.
like before?
It was like every 2 weeks.
Okay.
Real heavy over a week.
So
I know my iron's low, and
okay.
so is there anything I can do for that? Just because I feel like that, like I'm really tired all the time. I went home from work yesterday, canceled my appointments, laid in bed from 4 o'clock until 8 o'clock.
Some of that too, yes. You can take some supplementation, but you have to understand how much of this is caused from adrenal fatigue from your cheating.
Okay.
You remember leptin on this? It's HCG is elevating it, and so the adrenals are stimulated from the anterior pituitary. And leptin inside the hypothalamus is what regulates the stimulus.
Okay.
If there's a high amount of leptin inside the brain, then the anterior pituitary is going to say, hey, we don't need our adrenals.
Okay.
So more leptin in the brain means suppressed adrenals.
Okay.
The adrenals are what give you kind
energy.
of motivation. Totally. It's I can get up and I'm going to do things and I'm willing to take risks. That stuff.
Yeah.
Every time you cheat on this, you're getting huge surges of leptin in the brain.
Okay.
Beyond what they're supposed to be.
Okay.
It's like a bite of something is like a binge. So a lot of your symptoms are caused from the decisions to eat off protocol and eat too much.
Okay.
So if we were to remove that immediately,
I should start feeling
totally
better. Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
This is where it's like, some of your physical problems are also a byproduct. You feel emotional stress, what happens physically? When you actually, let me rephrase that, when you let yourself feel that emotional trauma without going to food to protect you, what will happen to the body? If you don't go to food to protect you, it won't have ailments.
Okay.
So we can do both. Yeah. Supplementation, and we've got to start over. Yeah, but with your new wisdom.
Yes.
That's the part. That's why it's like, you got to go back and look at all this and recognize, well, yeah, it makes sense why you acted this way. But if you could go back and redo things, what would be the view that would have prevented it?
Eat if I'm hungry.
Totally. You have to really no longer rely on food. You need to rely on your body. And it's not rely on your body with exercise.
Yes.
It's this hunger. I'm kind of trying to take your like insanity from the two polar opposites of control and freedom and putting them in the center, which is, this is your new insanity. Balance, centered to the body. It's like your compass. You have to trust that this compass is accurate.
Okay.
That the compass you've been using has really got you into a mess.
Yeah.
Even though you trust this compass, even though you know the compass you're using is totally messed up and you've never hit it. Always you've been using it since you were a baby. And but someone told you. Someone basically said, see this compass? If you don't use it, you're a pile of shit. And if you don't use it, you're going to feel traumatized. And you believed them. But that compass you used originally made you feel good to start. It kept you safe. It actually made you feel safe. Mm-hmm. But I'm basically saying, let's take this out and give you a new one. And you're going, oh my God, I need that old one, even though I hate the old one. Yeah. That's just, telling you, 3.5, 5.5. It will keep you safe. But it requires that all the decisions that you want, all the feelings you get to go to eat outside of that, you have to be capable and willing to feel.
Okay.
With the intent that you've got to detach your identity from all of that old past.
Yeah.
Experience something new. If you could go back to that 2-year-old and help her through it, would you say, you know, you can't handle this, here's some candy?
No.
What would you tell her?
That's okay.
Yep.
Give her a hug.
Just go inside and find something that's peaceful.
Okay.
Because there's no changing other people's behavior at that point. There's nothing you can do about it.
Right.
That girl was totally innocent. She was perfect in her own authentic state, and she was made to feel like an animal. You know? So you need to kind of rethink and do that. Then essentially you are enacting for that little girl by saying, because ultimately the feelings you get, wouldn't you say they're worse than they were when you were 2?
Yeah.
I know, because now you know what went on. Back then you didn't know.
Right.
So taking that 2-year-old, you wouldn't say, this is traumatizing and this is going to affect the rest of your life and you need to be so scared that it feels like you're going to die. You wouldn't have done that to her.
Mm-mm.
You would just basically say, none of this really makes you... You're a wonderful little girl. Whatever it is that's going on around you.
Yeah.
And you need to do that for yourself. No one else is going to do it for you. I can't do it for you. Because I can say that to you and you know that the intentions are right, but it can't hit to the core that way that you can.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, when you get those moments, that's the moment for you to be able to go, none of this matters.
Right.
You are okay. Food isn't going to make you feel better.
Right.
You know, find something creative to do. What do other children do? They play.
Mm-hmm.
They draw. They skip. They do, you know, whatever it is. I don't know. So, I don't even know if this is helping.
It is. Absolutely.
Because you have to take the emotion out and see it for what it is intellectually.
Mm-hmm.
Because you know as well as I do that intellectually none of it makes sense.
Yeah.
Because you can detach intellectually. You can detach from it.
Mm-hmm.
You've forgiven, you've gotten over, it's move on, but you're still, your body doesn't know that yet.
Right.
It's still wired to react, and you have to be, you got to keep the emotions out because then...
to comfort the fear.
Yeah.
Without food.
Yeah, you have to look at it.
Yeah.
It's like you have to be capable of saying, you know, I'm going to tolerate this fear because it's not, first of all, it's an illusion that my body's reacting to.
Mm-hmm.
No one's killing me.
Right.
No one's raping me.
Right.
My mom isn't rejecting me. None of this is real.
Right.
It doesn't exist, but my
Right.
body thinks it does based on
Well, it's
trigger.
maybe displaced fear or anxiety, you know, like
It is.
with work and the things that I have to do there and how far behind I am. And
Well, that's the
taxes coming
trigger.
up and,
You have all these basic
those are the
triggers, and those triggers are getting this trauma reaction
Right.
because of the wiring that's been created.
Yeah.
So that's why I say intellectually it doesn't make sense.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can handle this.
Yeah.
You know you can. When you
Right.
look at perspective, your child isn't being murdered in front of you.
Right.
So the reaction you get, which would be your children being murdered in front of you, doesn't make sense.
Right.
You have to be able to feel that, to rewire the brain.
Yeah. Instead of rejecting it.
Yes. Ta-da! And again, the one compass you have is, I'm not hungry. Don't even react to it. Let it come in, invite it in, and you'll notice that immediately as you breathe through it, it's kind of like labor and delivery. Breathing through that pain because you know it's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
That to me was so valuable, having children. That kind of like, there's no getting rid of this pain, so breathe through it and accept it and welcome it.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden it gets better, but as soon as you're like, it sucks, it gets worse. Do you remember that?
Mm-hmm.
This is the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's not physical pain, it's emotional pain, and you have to welcome it.
Okay.
And the funny thing, as soon as you welcome it, you are now the observer. And by observing it, you're no longer emotionalizing it. Because an observer doesn't emotionalize. It's like taking notes. You're not trying to put it on this moral scale.
Right.
So it just requires that you slow down in that environment. You just really slow your processing down so that you're aware of the occurrence of it. and that you're aware that you're justifying it. You go, you know what, done. I'm not doing that anymore. So you can stop yourself while it's occurring.
Mm-hmm.
Success with this process is not defined by you following the rules.
Okay.
That's why I said you're having a great week.
Having a great week.
You are. Honestly, if you think about it, all of this work and processing, where is it taking you? There's an end.
Somewhere new.
Totally.
Yeah.
So it's not like I started the conversation. This isn't like you took 5 steps backwards. You're still going forward. You just tripped on something going forward.
Yeah.
The worst thing you can do is ignore it. Go back, look at it, go, oh, well, okay, this was a trigger. Obviously, I reacted with trauma and guilt and, the whole process.
Yeah.
You want, it's almost like, if you think of it that way, wouldn't you want to see that trip again? Bring it on. I want to see it again. I'm going to prove it this time. I can handle this. Because if you're avoiding that type of trigger, that means it has power over you.
Yeah.
On a scale of who's got more power, you basically said it has more power to you. But how does it have power over you? You have to give it that power?
Allow it.
Yeah. So it's kind of one of those things. I always say this is kind of like competition. Bring it back. I want to redo it and prove to myself and my ego that I don't need this bull crap anymore. I'm hoping your brother comes back to visit and you get to go out and you can redo it. But some of this you can just replay in your head like I did. I'm like, go back and replay this in your head with the moderate. What would it feel like if you were back in that situation, eating with hunger and being able to push that food aside? Can you do that in your head? Can you replay that at some point?
Mm-hmm.
That's what I want you to do.
Okay.
If you can today, just go back in your mind through each and every time that you said screw it and overate. Replay, okay, in my mind, in your head. If I go back and I eat based on hunger, what would it have felt like?
Yeah.
How would that, because you can recreate that feeling, and that's just as powerful as doing it. You've learned about visualization?
Mm-hmm.
It's like when you go to a movie and you see it, it's a scary movie, your body reacts as if it's occurring.
Right.
Like if it's real.
Right.
You know intellectually it's not real, but the physical response to it is. So what I'm doing is saying, hey, let's visualize this so that you can get the experience without having to do it. But the greatest part about it is by doing it with what has existed, you're going to develop confidence by reenacting it in your head to where you're going to be like, bring it on.
Mm-hmm.
So that's going to be really important for you to do.
Okay. I can see why that would be.
It is, because if you can replay it in your head, your body will react differently.
Okay.
It's amazing, really, the connect between the soul and the body.
Yeah.
The same thing, that's why I keep on going back to your childhood, going, well, if you could go back and reenact everything, wouldn't there be a different outcome? Well, can you go back into it? The memories that you have.
Yeah.
Because I have memories too, at a very young age. And the only reason, a lot of people don't remember their childhood. You want to know why? Because nothing really was traumatizing. Either that was so traumatizing they put it somewhere else. But I remember being 18 months. I totally remember a lot of different things. And I've been able to go back and try to go, well, why would I remember something like that? Oh, it was this feeling. And that feeling changed the way I viewed the world forever.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I remember getting my diaper changed. Yeah, and my brother and sister were arguing over who was going to change my diaper, and I felt bad about it because I felt like a burden.
Mm.
To this day, I do not want to feel like I'm a burden to anybody.
Yeah.
And it was based on when I was 18 months old.
Interesting.
Uh-huh. To this day, I remember, but I had to go, I've obviously gone back into those memories to try to make sense of why I was so manipulatable. I don't know what the word is. People could easily manipulate me. Mm-hmm. Was because I didn't want to be a burden. So I would do what they said just to make it peace. So I ended up being a slave to everybody around me. So no wonder I went crazy. Do you see how I'm not? It's like, okay, so now I have some compassion. And if I go back to that little 18-year-old girl laying on the bed feeling just like